He is a principal at Highlander Way. So we're just going to do a quick little intro, and then really our two teachers, who I just want to say have spent hours and hours and hours and hours organizing this trip, and will continue as we get closer. So you're going to get emails from them. They are amazing. They've been on this trip many times, and so you are in very good hands as we talk about this trip. So they're going to go over all of the details. What I'm going to tell you is this is a very well-run trip. I have taken students before I came here as a social studies teacher. I have been on this trip. Student Adventures has always done an excellent job. When we've had any kinds of issues, one year our bus broke down a little bit while we were in DC, we quickly had a repair person and we were up and running, no problem. Any kind of little hiccup that happens, there is a team that comes in to help. So I know that it is hard sometimes to release our children. One, hoping they make good decisions when we're not there. That's one. Two, just releasing them off, but please know that they're in some really good hands with our staff that are here, and they're going to have an absolutely amazing time, and they are going to be tired. Very, very tired when they come back, but they will have an experience that you just can't replicate. When you go to DC and you have not been there before, to get to as much as they get to in the amount of time would be impossible, because you've got to park, you get here, you get there, they roll up, they get to their destination, tickets magically appear in their hands, they get to do their excursion, and then they're back on, and someone shoulders them. It really is such a cool experience for them. So first of all, thank you for trusting us with your students, and I'm going to pass it on, and you're going to go over all of the details of our trip. You also have a copy of them, so you have all the slides, as well as we'll talk about medication for them.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is John Hill. I'm the 8th grade U.S. history teacher over at Highlander Way, and this is
Marty Lefton, I'm the 8th grade social studies teacher here at Marshall Middle.
So we're both leading the respective trips at each other's schools, so I'll be in Highlander Way, obviously Mr. Lefton will be doing Harper, and we're just going to jump into it. All right, first thing we're going to talk about is a packing list for the trip right here. Now, it is the end of April in DC. You can have days where it's 40 degrees out, you can have days where it's 80 and humid. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the weather report a few days ahead of time to kind of see what's going on, and make sure you're packing accordingly. The best advice is to dress in layers. So have something that you can wear in the morning, maybe a couple layers, a light jacket, a sweatshirt, and then things that you can maybe remove and get a little bit more comfortable as the day progresses and it might get a little bit warmer. Shoes, you definitely want to have a good pair of shoes. This is a lot of walking. We average between 10 to 14 miles of walking each of the days. So you want to have a good pair of shoes that's in good shape. I know some of our 8th grade boys like to have a very weathered look to some of their shoes, but they want to have a good pair that's going to last the whole trip. T-shirts, you can wear t-shirts, collar shirt, the normal school dress code applies, so it needs to be appropriate. The jacket or sweatshirt or windbreaker, great idea like I said, so that they can dress in layers. Make sure that they pack pajamas for overnight, because otherwise that would be awkward. In terms of bathroom stuff, the normal toiletries, whatever that they need. We're staying at hotels, so they do have soap, shampoo, that sort of thing. So you don't have to pack that if you don't want to. I know I always have my special shampoo, so that's totally understood. Sunglasses and sunblock. It could be a little bit sunny. I don't think we've had a big issue with too much sun, but not a bad idea, especially if you're a little bit sensitive to the sun. We'll come back to medications here in a little bit, but definitely if there's any particular medications that your child is taking that you want to make sure those are packed. Other things that you want to make sure you might have with you is we're out, rain or shine. So if we get a light sprinkle or even a moderate sprinkle, we're still going to be walking the monuments and doing everything outside. So having a simple poncho with you that you can kind of throw over if it's raining is not a bad idea. Stopping by Dollar Tree or something like that and getting one of those simple ponchos, or an umbrella if you have that you can easily pack. When we're on the motor coach, we are going to have 2 seats on each side of the aisle, and you're there for quite a while. Bringing a travel pillow is a great idea, especially for the trip back, because it is overnight on the way back. We leave DC about 8, 9 p.m., and we travel overnight back. So having a nice travel pillow would be very helpful for that circumstance. If you want to bring a kind of small blanket for that trip back too, that you can stow easily in a backpack, that's not a bad idea as well. Suitcases will be stored underneath the bus, so students will not have access to them on the trip down and on the trip back. You cannot get back into the lower part of the motor coach while we're traveling. So anything that your student puts in the suitcase would not be accessible throughout the trip. It should only be stuff that they're taking for like clothing and stuff that they can access when they get back to the hotel room. I would highly recommend that you find some way to decorate or otherwise mark your suitcase so it's different from someone else's. Everyone has a black suitcase of some kind, and when you have a bus of 50 people unloading their stuff, every suitcase can look very similar. So getting some duct tape or something that can make your bag stand out is a great idea. I also recommend some sort of luggage tag on it that has your student's name on it so that you can differentiate between yours and someone else's. Participants are welcome to have a backpack on the bus itself, so you can take some day stuff with you. And each student will be getting a drawstring bag from Student Adventures that will serve as kind of like a travel bag. So when you jump off the bus to go into the Capitol building or the Smithsonian, you can throw in a couple of quick things and carry that with you. You don't have to take your big backpack with you. We do go through security at several different places where we have to go through a metal detector and an x-ray machine. So having that drawstring backpack that just has just the essentials in it is really helpful for making that a much quicker and more efficient process. Do not leave any valuables in your hotel rooms. Obviously, if anyone's traveled to a hotel room, you don't want to leave anything out that might be a risk of being taken, so don't bring your heirloom earrings or something like that. Leave those kind of things at home. We only have 2 nights there, so you don't need anything with you that's that valuable. Definitely do not bring any alcohol, vapes, drugs, none of that kind of stuff. That will get you a ticket back home here on your parents' dime. No full-size gaming systems. Some people tell me, can you bring your Xbox, Mr. Hill? No, you can't. We don't have time for it. If you want to bring your Switch or something like that, like a little handheld game, it's your own responsibility. You can bring it at your own risk, but I certainly understand that. I'll have mine with me on the bus. So, obviously, no weapons, nothing like that you need to have with you on the trip. Mr. Lefkovich, anything you want to add to that?
I would just say that I'm already hearing some chatter about a lot of gaming systems from the 8th grade boys at Parker. So those of you who are here, spread the word to your friends. Let's not bring those gaming systems. We're in the hotel such a limited amount of time, and you need to utilize that time for sleep because the days are long and grueling. It's a lot of walking in. It's a full day. So we really do want to encourage sleep in the hotel or not in the gaming.
All right, so Dr. Horn, do you want to add to that?
My only piece to this is don't pack your kid's suitcase for them. If you pack it for them, 6:30 in the morning is going to hit and they're not going to know where anything is. So they just rip it all out and throw it all over the floor. You can pack it with them, but don't do it for them. And then just do one last check in the morning just to make sure all the stuff that's not supposed to be there isn't there. It's inevitable that someone brings a game system and then they get disappointed when we have to take it and they can't have it back. So if you just do one final check before they come, we've seen things like Tums, sewing needles, stuff like that. Just one final look through the luggage that they're bringing, and then don't pack it for them. It's the biggest mistake we can make is doing it for them and they have no idea what's actually in their luggage when they get there.
And each of our buses will have first aid kits, so if you need Band-Aids or anything like that, those will be accessible, so don't feel like you need to pack any of those things. All right, so make sure that when you come on the bus, you have something that's carry-on size, like a backpack. You don't want to be taking the suitcase out of the bus. If you've been on a charter bus, you have that overhead bin, you can put stuff. There's usually a little bit of room underneath your seat as well, but we want to be cautious of that. We do have a couple of very full buses, so we only have a limited amount of space in the upper parts of the coach. Please bring walking shoes. No bathing suits. We are not using the pools at the hotels. Like Mr. Lefkovich was saying, we get there fairly late and we leave very early, so we're not even there during the times the pool's open. So please do not bring any bathing suits or anything of that nature. All right, let's talk about medications. Everyone should have gotten a form as part of the packets that's separate from the staple portion. This is our medical permission form. If your student has a prescription medication, we need you to fill out that form and make sure you get it signed by your child's physician, authorizing it to be administered while they're on the trip. Medications will be held, that are prescriptions, will be held by the chaperone group chaperone who will have that with them, and also a log for logging when they receive the medications. Now, could be a little bit different for some people, because I know at school, some people take their medications at school, but since we're together for, several days in a row, this could now include medications that your child normally takes in the morning or in the evening with you. So please review that carefully and make sure that you are planning accordingly with that sheet. When you send your student with their medications, only pack as many as they need for the trip. Should be in the original bottle. And that's going to be turned in when you drop off your student at either Parker or Highlander Way. We'll both have chaperones and staff members there to collect it and make sure it goes to the appropriate adult who will be with your student during the trip. Now, if you want your child to have an over-the-counter medication, we still want you to fill out that form, but we are not going to make you fill it out by a doctor. So if they need to have on Tums or Motrin or something like that, they can still have that, but we need permission on that form for them to do that, and they can self-carry that. If your student has an EpiPen or an inhaler, they are allowed to self-carry that. The chaperone does not need to be holding on to that, because obviously that's something that we want them to have immediate access to if needed. So if you have any specific questions about that, I would encourage you to talk to Mr. Leftwich and myself at the meeting, or Dr. Moore or Dr. Polkey, if you have anything that's specific or unique to your situation. So this is that form that we were talking about. There is a front and a back to it. So you can look at that, let us know if you have any questions. The back side is a release of liability, just acknowledging that your child is going to take medications while they're on the trip. And again, if you have any specific questions about what's in here, please see one of us at the end.
If your kid takes more than one medication, you can just use one form. You can put them all on that one form for it. They take 2 or 3 things.
All right, so for the trip itself, Student Adventures has been investing a lot in their ability to communicate. They have a fantastic app that you can download onto your child's phone or even your own phone, and you can put in the information, the login information that you use to register with. This app has a lot of great information in it, including our live itinerary. So if one of the questions Mr. Leftwich and I get asked all the time, what are we doing next? Well, it's in that itinerary, so they can just access it on their phone and see what's next. They can also look at some meal options at different places that we're stopping to eat. They can get background information about the different locations we're going to. There's a lot of great information in there. There's also contact numbers for Student Adventures, so if they somehow got separated, they can use the app to call in Student Adventures. So this is a great app to take a moment, look through, make sure you're familiar with before we go on the trip. We'll also be communicating via this app, but you don't have to have the app for that communication. So we can text everyone in the group via this app as group leaders for the whole trip, but that requires your student's cell phone to be accurate with Student Adventures. I didn't talk to Mr. Leftwich about this, but you're probably okay with it. About a week or so beforehand, what I usually do is send out a test text message to everyone on the trip, and then I'll follow up with an email saying, make sure you got this text. If you didn't, call Student Adventures and update your phone number. That way we can make sure as many people as possible can receive those messages. If you reply back to that, we don't get it. It's a setup through Student Adventures, so it's a one-way communication. So if you have specific questions that you have during your trip, you can talk to your chaperone or your staff members on the bus, because you can't text back to that number. But it's a way for us to let everyone know, like, we're 10 minutes from our next bathroom stop, or we need everyone meeting at this spot by this time. It's really helpful because it's the most efficient way to talk to everyone during the trip.
I would just add that each one of the buses has 2 staff members, and information is always going to be forthcoming to your student. They will know what stops are coming up, what the security looks like there, when we're going to the hotel, reminders of what to bring, reminders of when to wake up. So if they're not really strong cell phone app users, there is still going to be a lot of communication and a lot of help. We will certainly make sure that your child knows exactly where to be, when to be there, and what's happening.
All right, so those of you who are at Parker, this is where your drop-off spot's going to be the morning of the trip. You want to talk about
Yeah, it's just the regular bus loop, as you can see, like coming off of Ray Road. There's just the regular drop-off point in the morning. And soon we'll be here in the auxiliary gym. That's our staging area. The bus is parked right up in here, so just loop around and drop them off just like a day at school. Kiss and go. Make it very quick. It's pretty easy. It's very efficient. We're set up very nicely for it over here.
And we are asking that parents just kind of drop off and go quickly, not to come in because it gets pretty chaotic in the morning, and we want to make sure things are moving as efficiently as possible. Over at Highlander Way, our drop-off is going to be over here in the bus lot. So we're going to come in here through the 8th grade entrance. Students are going to drop their luggage off in the gymnasium and then move to the cafeteria to meet with their groups. When you come in here, we ask that you please don't park in the bus lot because that's where our charter buses are going to come in at. And when we come home on Saturday morning, our buses, the charter buses have to make their wide swing into here to park. So if you could not park in this area, that's super helpful. You can park over at the freshman campus. So there's lots of room there for the buses to come in.
I already asked the park for chaperones, park in the staff, if you're leaving a car, park in the staff lot, please.
This is just clarification for Highland Way. The students, you're going to be coming in past the gym. We'll have you set up for bus 1, bus 2, bus 3 to drop off your luggage, and then you're going to come and sit in the cafeteria. And I'm going to go over this with the students at Highlander Way in our pre-meeting that we're going to have here in a couple weeks, and I'm sure Mr. Leftwich is going to do the same with his partner students. All right, so we're going to talk about the itinerary a little bit next and what we're going to be doing. Please keep in mind this is different slightly for each of our groups. We go to different places at different times, so we're not going to go through it like hour by hour, but just generally what are some of the different things that we're going to do and what you can expect at each of those different stops.
Yeah, just to be clear, it is the same, we are seeing the exact same sites, and we're just not seeing them at the same time. I just want to add one more thing to the packing list. A lot of kids this is their first time away and doing anything, and they're in a room full of 4 kids. So I want you to imagine 4 block chargers, 4 AirPod holders, right? They all are the exact same. So it really is helpful to take a Sharpie and put a name or put an initial on that kind of thing. We had a lot of confusion actually in the past of everybody gets in there and puts the exact same charger all right next to each other. Same thing with the AirPods. So that's just a little helpful hint just to make sure that your kid's technology stays with your kid.
So one of the things that we'll have at DC and at Gettysburg are guided tours. We have expert tour guides who come on to each one of our buses and will help lead the bus during their time both on the bus and walking around in DC. These tour guides are a wealth of information, but it's really important that our students are focused on the tour guides. So they should not have their AirPods in, shouldn't be on their phones unless they're taking a picture. They can ask questions of the tour guides. The tour guides are very knowledgeable and they have to go through a lot of certification in order to be leading these tours. It's also really important that as we're walking around with these tours, that students are paying attention to where the tour guide is. We are going to be in places where there is a lot of other people, a lot of other groups, a lot of other tour guides, and it's very easy if you get distracted and you're talking to your friend that you can kind of lose sight of where our tour guide is taking us. All of the tour guides usually have something to identify themselves with, whether it's a funky looking umbrella or something that they hold up in the air to kind of delineate who they are. But as students, it's a really good thing to make sure that you're being aware of the surroundings and where your adults are and where your guided tour is heading to. So having a conversation with your child about being mindful of those kind of situations, especially in areas that are much busier than you're maybe used to here in Howell, is really, really important. On Thursday night, we are going to be going to a place called Smoky Glen Farm. This is one of the events that both Parker and Highlander Way do together. Smoky Glen Farm is where we have dinner, but not only is there dinner, there is a huge playground that has baseball, it has putt-putt golf, it's got volleyball, it's got all kinds of things for the kids to do. There's going to be DJ with music, they have great barbecue chicken there that they'll have, and it's kind of a chance for us to kind of relax on Thursday night and then be together with both Parker and Highlander Way. We are going to ask the students that they will stay in the grounds of Smoky Glen Farms. There's several acres there, and there's a wide open meadow between us and the forest. We just ask that we stay in that area, being mindful of that we clean up after ourselves, And it'll be getting dark towards the end of that time together, so making sure that as it's getting dark, we're coming back in so that we can be in the central area when we get ready to leave. But a lot of fun for that night and lots of cool things to do there.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it does always blow my mind when I ask kids what do they like the most, and they say Smoky Glen Farm. After we've taken them to see the most wonderful sights of our nation's capital and all these places, oh, we looked at that farm, that was a lot of fun. We played basketball there, but it was a really, really fun night, and like Jonathan said, it's a really nice night for the chaperones to have a good Southern style meal. Food there is fantastic, and kids eat well, and then they play hard, and get ready to go for the next day. It's a good night.
Now, one of the things we get to do is we'll be visiting Arlington National Cemetery, which is just right by DC, and we'll be going to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. This is a spot dedicated to anyone who's died in battle and whose remains are known only to God. And there it is guarded 24/7, and we will be able to lay a wreath at the tomb. This is going to be cool this year because we're doing one as both Parker and Highlander Way. We have 4 students, 2 from each school, who will be taking part in that. If you're one of those students who are taking part in it, it is important that you dress up. This is your Sunday best dressing up to be up there because they have a strict dress code for taking part in it. If you're viewing it, there is also certain rules for doing that. It is a silent area, so when you walk up there, you can sit there and you can view it and watch the soldiers march back and forth, but they require strict silence. The soldiers will yell at you if you are being loud. Highlander Way and Parker have done a fantastic job of this each year that we've done it, and I don't expect anything different this year, but that is the expectation when we get to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, that it is a silent area where we have to be on our very best behavior. So there are opportunities on the trip to purchase souvenirs, and who doesn't like a good souvenir? There's a couple different stores in DC that we'll stop at that our tour guides are familiar with, that are easy to get in and get out of. The items are reasonably priced. Typical things that people get are like sweatshirts or hats or maybe a little desk ornament of some kind. Whatever you get, you want to make sure that it is packable. You don't want to be getting something that you're going to be lugging around and not have room for on a bus. You want to make sure it's school appropriate. Some places they'll sell like toy guns or replica firearms, especially when we're in and around Gettysburg. None of that stuff should be brought with us. If you're going to get a sweatshirt, I would estimate between $15 to $25. Hats are generally about $10 to $15. Now that could vary because I haven't been there since last year, so that price might go up. So if you want to be spending money for those souvenirs, please plan accordingly so you can get what you want. You'll have maybe about 2, maybe 3 chances to do that. So if you're somewhere and you see something you like, go for it. You don't know when you might get back to that same spot to get a very similar item like that. All right, so one of the things that we get to do at Capitol Building is not only go inside and tour it, but we are going to be taking a panoramic photo in front of the Capitol. You might have seen this picture. I know we have a couple of them posted up in Highlander Way, and I'm sure they're around here at Parker as well, where we get a big group shot of the whole school group in front of the Capitol Building. It's a really cool experience. If you want to get one of those pictures, you need to go on to Student Adventure's website through your login and order it. I think it's an additional $20 charge. You can still order them now, as I understand, so if you want to do that, you can. Afterwards, we usually have a few extra copies that they give us, so if you decide after the fact, like, oh, we really wanted to get that one, but we didn't, we do have a limited amount that we can sell after we come back as well. But it's a really cool keepsake from the trip, something that you can look back at in 20 years and think of all the kids that, like all your friends that you were on the trip. It's a cool thing to have with you. So we also, every student is going to be getting a t-shirt that is designed specifically for this trip. And we ask on the day that we do the panoramic photo that all students are wearing that shirt because it just looks really sharp when we're up there all in our t-shirt matching t-shirts up there. I don't think we're going to get the same day. I think we're on different days of Parker and Highlander Way for that. So you want to look at the itinerary. When we talk specifically with our groups, our students, we'll let them know what day they're supposed to be wearing that. But we're going to ask them to try to wear that t-shirt the day of the panoramic shot. I know at Highlander Way, we're going to be giving out those t-shirts the morning of. I'll have them set out on all the group tables so that they can receive their t-shirt and their backpack that day. I know Mr. So we'll have to talk what he's gonna do.
Yeah, at Parker, we will have them, the t-shirts preloaded into the backpacks, and we'll actually have them on the bus, just to save a little time for that staging time in the morning. And I believe they're the same, each school has the same t-shirt.
Yeah, we have
this
the
year.
same t-shirt.
It's a Howell-based t-shirt for our entire community.
Maybe we can have some guy sign a t-shirt too, sorry.
That's what I heard.
All right, so the typical school code of conduct and rules apply on the trip just like they would apply here. School dress code applies, so anything that you would not wear at school, you are not wearing on this trip. If you are wearing something inappropriate, I usually buy a XXL t-shirt that we can use to cover up if anyone needs that. And it is the most fashionable thing you can imagine, so we have that available for those situations. Cell phones. Typically at school, we do not allow cell phones. On this trip, you're allowed to have your cell phone. In fact, we would encourage it because, like I said before, that's a good way for us to communicate to the entire group. Phones should be used for appropriate uses. So if you're listening to music, watching movies, playing some games on the trip, there and back, that's fine. While we're getting a tour or hearing about a particular place, we should not be on our phones unless we're taking a picture. But often, most people now take their pictures on their cell phones, so we want you to have that ability to do that at all these different stops. If you're going to take a picture with someone else, you need to have their permission. So as much as Izzy might want to take a picture of Mr. Hill sleeping on the bus and drooling, she would need to have my permission first before she does that. So no taking pictures of your friends or anything like that, or posting them to your Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, your MySpace, whatever you want to post it to. When you're in museums, please make sure you're aware of whether or not they allow photos in those areas. One example of that is in the Smithsonian, when you're viewing the flag from Fort McHenry, they don't allow photos in that area, and they actually have a security guard there who will yell at you if you try to take a photo. I don't know, don't ask me how I know that. No photos in any bathrooms or changing clothes. In fact, I would say don't take any photos in hotel rooms at all. Okay, that would be off limits place to take any kind of photos. So please be mindful of those because you're getting this privilege to have the cell phones on the trip. In high school, you're going to have a lot more. So please be respectful and remember that what the rules are regarding those devices.
Yeah, I'll just add that we really do try to promote like responsible cell phone use. So I really do try to, the bus captains of the Parker trip, and I'm sure Riley will also, are pretty stringent to say when they're appropriate, when it's not, when they should be put away, and when they can use them. It's a really good learning opportunity for our kids how to be responsible technology users.
All right, so when it comes to meals, some of the meals we have are already taken care of for us. So like when we go to Smoothie Glen's Farm, it's like a buffet style. You come up, you pick what you want. When we're in Gettysburg, we go to this amazing buffet. What's the name of this? Yeah, something farmhouse. But it's some of the best food I've ever had. But there's other places where you'll need to go and make your selection for what you want. There's at least 2 to 3 places I can think of off the top of my head where you're going and it's like a selection of different restaurants you can pick from, kind of like you're at the food court at 12 Oaks. When you're at those places, you'll have either the till card you signed up for or a temporary till card that you can use to make purchases for the meal. Before we start that meal, we'll probably text out or our staff will verbally tell everyone on the bus, you have X amount to spend at this particular spot. If you go over that amount, you need to make sure that you take care of that yourself. If you're under that amount, then you're good. Any funds that are left on the loaner till cards, the ones that Student Ventures are loaning out for the trip, those funds are gone. So it's use it or lose it. If you have your own till card that you registered for, those funds stay with you. You can use them whenever you want. So that's one difference between those 2 options. I believe there may be one spot that we're using a food voucher at. I have to confirm that with Student Ventures. But the way that works is the food voucher has a list of different restaurants and different meals you can get at those restaurants. And you would hand them the food voucher for that particular meal. If you wanted to purchase more than what was on that voucher, you would have to spend your own spending money to get those particular items. Most places where we're at have about a $15 to $20 limit. One of the places we eat is at the Capitol Building, and their things tend to be a little bit more expensive, so we up the allowance for that so you can get a couple different items. That one I want to talk about specifically because the way that one works is it's kind of hard to describe how that works, but there's lots of different like kiosks you can stop at. You can get a burger here, you can get pasta over here, you can get pizza here. You select your items, and then at the very end, you pay for whatever you get. So it's very easy to overload your plate and be like, oh my gosh, now I have $30 worth of food. It's all really good, but you have to be mindful of looking at how much things cost when you're at those type of places.
Yeah, I would just say that last year, a majority of families had the pre-ordered till card, which was a little surprising. The loaner cards were really super convenient. They have them, the tour guide from Student Adventures has them right on the bus, passes them out to the kids. So don't feel like you absolutely have to do that unless you really want to make sure that you can add extra spending to your student. And it's a good way to like provide safe spending for them if you don't want them to have cash. But if this seems like a lot, the loaner card will work well. Just the only thing to be mindful of is that what amount is on it, and we'll be very clear with your kids about what they can spend at it. So there's one little information just so you can make a good decision for your family.
One thing I will say too is when we're at the buffets, is making sure we are mindful how a buffet works. So you are welcome to get as much food as you want, but you should be making sure you're being reasonable in what you're taking. I'm looking at some of the boys who like to maybe see how much food they can get away with carrying out with, and that's not the way to handle a buffet. The Farmhouse restaurant in South End of Gettysburg has literally one of the largest buffets I've seen in a long time, and you can get all kinds of things. You can get your first meal, you can get a couple things, but you're welcome to come back, so you don't have to load everything up onto one plate, and that's all you get. So you can make separate trips if you wish. Be mindful that there are other groups who will be using that buffet as well, so usually they have other school groups who are coming in there to do the same things. It's a very large facility. And just be mindful of making sure you're not cutting people in line, making sure if you spill something, you let the staff know so they can clean it up, and listening to instructions, because they'll generally dismiss us by table, so it's not a huge rush of all 300 kids going for food at the same time, and being respectful to the staff and the adults who are a part of that. All right, so Wednesday departure, we are going to get an early start. We are leaving at 4:30. Well, not leaving at 4:30, but we should be in school at 4:30 a.m. You are going to drop off your kids at Kiss and Go line. This is your last chance to turn in any medications. I know on the way we'll have some at the 8th grade entrance where you can drop off those medications so we can get them to the appropriate staff, chaperone members. And the medications should be turned in to... Yeah, so as I said before, the medications are going to be carried by the chaperone unless they are an inhaler or an EpiPen. So please make sure that you get that into our chaperones and the staff can have those ready to go. Well, we can. We haven't done it that very fast.
Okay, I just want to make a clarification about medication, so I was just checking. We have always collected those medications beforehand. So when you think about, we have maybe 115 students that are going. Many of them are going to have medication because you may want your child to have ibuprofen, because they're going to text you, I'm so sore, I haven't walked this much ever. So like, they may want some ibuprofen, they may want some Tylenol. One of my sons is, more prone to headaches. If I was sending him, I would send him with Tylenol. So that being said, think about 115 and maybe 80 of them come with medication. Some have over-the-counter, some have prescription, which then we need to organize and then have them ready to go for their chaperone. So it is, for us at Parker, we have never really collected them in the morning unless it was like a last minute, and I'm there at 4:30 in the morning, and they're running in because there's something, but it really is a lot of work for us to organize. So we ask that the Friday before the trip, if we can get those in at the latest on the Monday, that helps us to make sure that everything is organized, ready to go, and then they're boxed up, and it's just one less thing. And like I said, it seems like it's not a big deal. You're just bringing Tylenol, but the volume that we have, which is probably like 80 kids with different medications, it just helps us. So we're going to ask that the Friday before the trip, if you can have those medications in, if you need to have something over the weekend or you need to get a refill, that's fine. We can ask that by Monday, that is all in. That just really helps us make sure it's a big deal for us to make sure that the chaperones have exactly what they need. And we also try to put out for them, for those chaperones, okay, these are the students that you have, this is when they need their medication. They may be managing 6 different kids that have medication. So again, if you can get that to us by the Friday before, that would be very helpful. Highlander Way will also take them early, you said?
Yeah.
We'll take them early myself, if I was not working the rest of the day, would look very different. Trust me. So, those are my other two. I thought I had one more, but I think I'll come back to it.
You're always welcome.
Also, for Highland Way, let me clarify, the forms, I want those ahead of time. Like, so by that Friday, I need everyone's forms to bring it in. The medications, like the actual bottles and stuff, you can turn in on the way in that morning. All right, so when we're on the buses, a couple expectations for when we're on the buses themselves. We're gonna ask that in the seats, each seat pair is the same gender. So boys with boys, girls with girls. I won't explain why we don't want to have that boys and girls in seats next to them. Keep your area clean and make sure you throw away garbage. In between the seats is not the place to stuff your wrappers or your snacks or things like that. If you keep your area dirty, you're staying on to clean the whole bus at the end. And believe me, on that Saturday morning, you don't want to be the one who's sitting there cleaning up that whole bus for your bus driver. Please do not lay on the floor during the trip. You need to stay in your seats. I know it can be tempting, especially on that long bus ride back, to just kind of slide down on the floor and lay out and stretch out. One, that's not safe, and two, it impedes anyone who needs to walk to the back to use the bathroom. I know adults will walk back and forth occasionally to check on things throughout the trip. We need to keep that aisleway clear so that people can walk through it. There are restrooms on the bus, but we ask you, try not to use them unless you have to. If you need to go, obviously go. But as the trip progresses, those holding tanks on the bus do not get emptied until after we get back. So whatever we deposit in there at the beginning will be there throughout the whole trip. So if you need to use it, please do so, especially for in between rest stops. We're going to try to stop about every 3 hours for a rest break, where you can get out and use the restroom at one of the service plazas. But we try not to use the restroom if we don't have to. On the way back, that's a different story. When we do that overnight trip back, we don't do as many stops. So if you need to use that restroom on the way back, please go ahead, because everyone's sleeping and it wakes everyone up if we have to stop the bus to get everyone out for a restroom break. No energy drinks. We do not allow any energy drinks on the trip. Your Monsters, your whatever it might be, whatever the flavor of the month is right now in terms of energy drinks. It's just way too much stimulation for an already stimulating trip. And the bus will have outlets for charging devices. I've not been on a bus in the last 5 years that did not have charging outlets for all of your devices and things like that. I generally, and Michelle, I don't know if you do differently, I don't bring any DVDs on the buses anymore because there's really no point because kids just watch whatever's on their phone. So I'm not planning on bringing DVDs, are you saying?
No, yeah, practically every kid has their own screen in front of them, so they just end up playing to nobody. I will say that the buses generally do have Wi-Fi, but imagine 50 people trying to use a bus Wi-Fi at the same time is usually pretty poor. So I just might suggest, while you're at home on your own Wi-Fi, download your podcasts, download your movies, download your shows, download the things that you want to have, because the bus's Wi-Fi, while existent, is not super strong.
So when we're going through DC, this is a very busy place, and there's lots of people there who are going by their daily business. When we're walking on the sidewalks, it is so tempting for our students to walk side by side, 4 or 5 across, and then we're blocking every other person who is walking down the sidewalk. It's really important to have a conversation with your student that when they're walking, they stay to the right, just like you would down driving a car down the road, so that traffic can pass to your left. Even if your friends, like normally in the hallway, you're all clumped together and you walk together, you can't really do that. You can't really be any more than 2 or 3 across, even less than that in some cases. When we get to a spot where we have to cross the road, you need to be mindful of the light change. There will be times when we are crossing the road, the light's going to change, and your group has to wait to cross, and the other group across the way has to wait for the rest of the group to catch up. So don't just plow through. This all goes back to being situationally aware, being aware of what's going on around you. And in a big city like this, it's really tempting to be looking at the sights and the sounds, but you also have to be mindful of the environment that you're around and making sure your group is staying together. Always pay attention to where the group is going. Make sure that you have a good sense of, okay, this is our next stop, we're heading this direction. Look for people to be moving to the next spot. There will be spots, especially at the memorials, where the tour guide will say, hey, you guys have 5 or 10 minutes just to explore around this area for a little bit. But the tour guide will always tell you, meet at this spot in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever that might be. making sure that you're aware of what that location is, the time, and if you have questions about it, letting your adult know, like, hey, where did they say to meet, where did they say to go, at what time, so that you can be ready to go. There will be literally hundreds of other groups there, and it is very easy to get kind of flustered in that situation if you're not paying attention to what's going on. In the hotels are very nice. We're going to be staying in Dulles. The hotel rooms, you should only exit if there is an emergency. So once you go into the night, there's no reason to come out of your hotel room. Everything you need is in there. We will have security who are in the hallways. They do not come into the students' rooms, but they're meant to be there to make sure no one is wandering the hallways. And if any issues come up during the night, they can come in and get us to kind of help deal with that if there's anything that comes up. We ask that you do not use the phone in the room unless there's some sort of emergency that you need to get a hold of someone. Make wise decisions with the TV. Again, no gating systems that we're hooking up. We don't have enough time there. We get back to the hotel about 9 or 10 at night. We're leaving at like 6 in the morning. So you're really just going there to sleep and get some rest. We're not going to hang out in the lobby or if there's any kind of like Starbucks or anything like that there. If everyone tries to go to order a Starbucks at the same time, it just doesn't happen for anybody because there's just too many people trying to make those orders, and we are a large group. Generally, they put us for breakfast in some sort of conference room that they'll have, and everyone will have plenty of food for breakfast and everything like that, but we should stay in that area until we're dismissed out to the buses. We're not wandering around other parts of the hotel. Security in the hallways I already talked about. If there's an emergency during the night, like if someone's feeling ill, someone is feeling sick, you can let the hallway security know to come get us. I know for Highlander Way, I have a secondary cell phone number that I give out in case of emergencies during the night that you can call to let me know that you need help, and I'll get another staff member who can come help you out with whatever might be going on.
Yeah. I mean, we talked to the security guards. They know exactly where the trip leaders are, so we'll be ready there. We have actually 2 administrators going with Parker, so we'll make sure we handle any emergency. Just for all you parents who are here, your kids, if you could tell your friends, the security teams do give us a list, a report every morning of behavior. So it might read something to the effect of at 12:30 p.m., like loud laughter and loud noise, or a.m. rather, coming out of this particular room. In which case, we do address that room by room with the administration team that's there. So you really don't want to be left on that list, or you don't want to be put on that list. So be mindful. We are also not the only guests of that hotel. Last year, I had a bad encounter one morning with a regular citizen who was trying to sleep at about 9 o'clock when both schools were trying to check in. So we want to be as respectful as we can to people who we are sharing that space with.
So return on Saturday. When we come back, we are planning on being back around 8 a.m. However, traffic and weather or bus situations can make that a bit of a variable. So as we're getting closer coming back, we'll be sending out text messages via the Student Adventures app to kind of update you when we plan to arrive. I know last year for Highlander Way, we were planning on being back by 7:30, and I don't think we made it back until almost 8:45 because of traffic and an issue with the bus. So please be mindful that we'll be sending out those messages as we get closer, but it'll be sometime early Saturday morning. If you are available to help unload the buses when you get there in the morning, or get there that morning, that's very helpful because that's usually one of the longest parts of the process because we're all eager to get home and get some sleep. And if you make sure you mark your students' bags, that will make it easier to find. Like I said before, make sure it's tagged in some way that makes it unique and easy to find.
No, last year we were a little early coming back from Parker, so you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you can go either way. So, and I know a lot of people have like Life 360 or Find My Friends on your student's phone. You can kind of track as they're going. We just ask that everyone is there when we do pickups, so that we don't have to wait around. We're ready to go home and get some sleep ourselves.
Great.
Do you have anything you want to add?
There was one more thing. So when they were talking about dress code, one of the things that we are going to ask your student is to not wear any political hats or shirts. The reason for that is we are not there. We don't want them to be engaging with other people, having conversations with that. We don't want there to be any disturbances. that is one conversation to have with them. They're going to be around all types of people to make sure that they are respectful and they're not engaging with other people that are just, you know, in a museum or wherever they may be, going back and forth. Our kids have done an amazing job every year. They really have. They have shown us that they can be respectful, that they can handle responsibilities, can be where they're supposed to be at the time. And I have no doubt that this class, and I've heard from Dr. Moore the same thing, the higher grade students, that they will do the same this year as they have before. But it's a good opportunity to have those conversations with your student, to go through that itinerary, to kind of talk to them about, hey, here's different places, here's how you handle purchasing food, if you want extra. If you give them money, they will spend it. So whatever you don't want to come back, go ahead and give them, and they will spend it, and they will find a thing. There are lots of cool things. So just having those conversations are just really great opportunities where they get to have some freedom, but we want them to do that responsibly. They always have, and I really appreciate that, and that has to do with the parenting and the community that we have here. They were able to take, you know, over 200 students to Washington, D.C. every year and come back and say, wow, they did such an excellent job. So thank you for your partnership in that.
All right, just to kind of wrap up here, we do have a chaperone meeting that'll happen right after this. If you are a chaperone on the trip, we're going to have you come up here and meet with Mr. Leftwich and Mr. Hill. If you're not a chaperone, you have other questions, Dr. Pelkey and I will be in the back. If it's a quick question, ask us now. If it's a question that's going to be lengthy in time, just shoot us a quick email. We'll get back to you via email. Thanks again for coming out. Last year's I've been here, trip's been great. So the kids done awesome. Staff has done a good job. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.